Hello and welcome to the Rupeeting podcast. Before we begin this week's session, we'd like to give you just a brief disclaimer that none of the securities that we mentioned during the course of this podcast are recommendatory in any manner. And anything that we say in terms of a projection or a forward looking statement, just our way of doing it in the form of an educational standpoint. So it's all fun and games, and we're just going to talk about a stock that we discovered this week was quite has had quite the rally in the past year.
We discovered it long back,
Yeah.
and we're just talking about it now.
Yeah, anyway, so we came across this stock, I think a month or two ago, when we were just looking at a bunch of different defense stocks, and that's been quite the hype lately, not just in the past few months, but in the past 2, 3 years post COVID. And I think this stock is less spoken about amongst the famous HALs and BDLs and everything. This one's particularly uh, a unique one, we'd like to say, and it's called Mazagon Shipbuilders. So
So briefly, what do they do?
So, as the name suggests, they are shipbuilders. They're the one of the only regulated ones for the Indian Navy and Coastal Guard. So, specific kinds of ships that they operate in, like warships or vessels that they use for patrolling. Specific ones for them are solely manufactured by Mazagon Shipbuilders.
So there is no other manufacturer.
There's Cochin Shipbuilders, there's Goa Shipbuilders, but Goa Shipbuilders comes under Mazagon Shipbuilders. So there's
Okay.
technically only two major ones, which is Mazagon and Cochin, and then I think smaller players that take up the rest of the orders. But majority is these two, and both of them have a fair share of split in terms of what the Indian Navy wants to manufacture for themselves or for the Coastal Guard.
Okay.
Wow. So how many ships can they build in a year?
So as of now, they have built about 800 plus, but in a year they can build about
800
11.
ships.
Yeah, they've since I think the 60s they've built about 800, 900 ships and
Okay.
maybe 10, 15 submarines. But each year they have the capacity to build about 11 ships and 10 submarines simultaneously. So it's both happening at the same time. And I think they have only one or two huge like locations where they operate, and then one more coming in Mumbai again. But in this restricted space, they've managed to uh, encompass so much capacity.
Restricted किधर? अभी वो that eastern side of Mumbai is all.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, there is like this thing, Chembur ke paas only, what is that? Bhabha Atomic Research Center. Then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go
yeah.
further, there are these docks and there are these
Correct.
mills and all of that. There's too
Yeah.
much space on that side of the city.
But I think the radiation is what's putting people off.
What
There was
really-
something no, on the,
So in Chembur, there's this location called Baba Atomic Research Center.
Okay.
So at the core of it, which is probably 10, 15, 20 kilometers away from any commercial living or residential living, there is a nuclear reactor where they've been testing for nuclear power sources or
Okay.
whatever. So that operation's been shut down for years, but that place is cordoned off from like visitors at least because of the amount of radiation that's been exposed in the area. So
Oh.
it's covered with like mountains and trees. It's very nice. In Google Maps, if you look, you can see one small dome. Anyway, back to Mazagon Docks.
Okay, so what kind of ships does this company build? Like only destroyers or what?
So they were the first ones to manufacture destroyers entirely in India, like complete indigenous production में destroyers. Mazagon Docks builds. So they have the sole contract to build destroyers with the Indian Navy, and some form of vessels called the corvettes. They were the first ones to bring that also to India.
what are those?
They're like really small, few member team vessels that are usually not armed for like massive combat, but more for patrolling and just observation rather than engaging in battle. But the destroyers are the one that destroy.
So the
So
destroyer.
in there,
Okay.
even I get, we go alternate.
Yeah.
Now my turn. So do the like the current order book for Mazagon Dock, for example?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Okay. So the entire order book is about 38,500 crores, out of which I think it's pretty much half, where 15 to 20, maybe 15 to 18,000 crores is destroyers, two types of destroyers, and some kind of a frigate ship. So ships is half, and then there's submarines taking up the other half, which is something called a P-75 submarine, which also they're the only ones manufacturing completely in India.
I have a sub question.
Yeah.
How much do these individual ships or submarines cost?
Okay, so like a destroyer would probably be around 15, 16,000 crores. One, sorry,
What?
no. It'll be around 7,500 crores for one.
So much?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Oh,
It's
you're
quite,
talking about those INS kind of.
yeah, sort of.
Oh, those large ones.
Yeah. I think the INS ones will be even more than 7,000 crores, but the fairly more mass produced ones, they are around 7,000,
So they're like proper aircraft carriers and all.
No, so the INS ones are aircraft carriers, which will probably be 10,000 crores. So I
So
think in Cochin Shipyard does the INS variants. At least the Vikrant one, the most famous one, is by Cochin Shipyard. But
Okay.
I think Mazagon had done something called the INS Godavari, I think, which is smaller but also has the carrier strip. But these destroyers don't have that facility. It's just man and arms. So it has, yeah.
So
That's
no
the only thing
helipad.
it. Sorry.
So some destroyers have helipads as well as the aircraft landing bay.
Right. But these ones that Mazagon produces doesn't. So it's
Oh,
called the P-15. That particular variant doesn't have the space for a helipad or any kind of vehicle to land on top of it. But it's heavily armed. So that's, I think, one of its. That's why it's supposed to be a little lighter. It's supposed to be a little more agile. It's smaller than an INS variant, but it's heavily equipped with machinery in terms of being able to handle combat, which is, I think, the need of the hour in terms of the Navy's requirements. And hence the massive orders coming in from there.
isn't INS Vikrant and the other kind of destroyers, which are the biggest ones,
Yeah.
those are the ones needed right now?
So there is another INS Vikrant variant going to come out, but those take very long to actually set sail in terms of production process. These destroyers you can make one a year at least minimum.
Okay.
Those take a little longer in terms of testing also, because since it's so heavy, it requires massive rounds of testing. I think even the Vikrant took quite a while for it to be officially launched. So they want the smaller ones to line up the coastal regions so that they can prevent any intermediary attacks at least.
Okay, one follow-up question now. So as compared to INS, this Kochi shipyard, and
Yeah.
how is this company performing?
That's a great question that I don't have the answer to, unfortunately.
Because if INS Vikrant and all these destroyers are being made by Kochi,
Yeah.
then it must be having a bigger order book than Moscow docks, maybe.
Not necessarily,
no,
but wait,
but
we can check.
it also might imply that the order book is the execution of the order book happens over a longer duration, right? So revenue
Yeah.
booking must be slower for them compared to a Mascot Rock. Although
Yeah.
the quantum of orders must be, don't know quantum of orders, but quantum per unit would be larger, but execution time per unit is also larger. So it may not necessarily turn out to be.
Okay.
So from the current order book, you have numbers, right? Like in terms of like how many destroyers, how many submarines.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
So what does that look like?
So there is two PB-15 destroyers that we were talking about, which is each around 7,000, 7,500 crores. Then there's something called a stealth frigate, which is also another variant of a ship, but I think that has sonar capabilities. So it's more for, again,
Navigation.
observation and navigation related. So I think it's called a stealth frigate because it can pick out submarines that are deeper than the eye can see, or any other ships that are within a particular radius. So there's about four of those in the order book, and that entire value is about 18,500 crores. So that's the major chunk of the order book, the stealth frigates.
Doesn't
So two
stealth
dis-
mean? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Doesn't
so
stealth
two
mean that?
destroyers and
Yeah,
then stealth frigates and
yeah, four of those
submarines.
and one submarine. Yeah, and that submarine's about 4,500 crores each.
Wow. So that makes up about 38,000 crores of the total.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So you're saying that they can make about 10 to 11 of those destroyers or ships
Yeah.
and 10 to 11 submarines, but they're only doing about 2, 3 of each.
Yeah.
So they're heavily underutilizing their capacity.
As of now, yes.
Wow, but still that order book of 38,000 crores is much more compared to, like in revenue terms, it will bring much more compared to what they've been making, right?
Exactly. So I think just so as per what the management has indicated, and they've given like an order flow of sorts, where next year and the year after that, so 24 and 25 financial years, revenues will probably be higher than there ever has been. So as of now, let's say it's around 7,000 crores for FY23. It can go up to as much as 10 and 12,000 crores in FY24 and 25 because that's when they're aiming to complete majority of this 38,000 crores worth of orders.
Sweet. So basically, then revenue. So there is visibility, right? I think that's what's 38,000 on 7,000 crores.
Yeah.
So that's like about 5.5 times revenue,
Right.
and that's executable within the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Wow. But obviously, like there'll be more orders that will also come in, right?
Yeah.
So this is not
Especially for these destroyers that we were talking about. So those P-15 destroyers and the P-75 submarines, there's already talks of repeat orders coming in for those already because there's some form of retrofitting that can be done. So even if they order a mass of them now, and there is better technology that comes in the next few years, it can just be fit into the existing submarine or the existing ship. So it's that good of a model in itself already that the Navy just like, let's mass order it immediately.
So this 38,000 crore has an upside,
Yeah.
which might just be in a place where rather than it being 5.5 times revenue, it can accelerate going forward. And if that obviously accelerates, then your revenue growth also has a potential of increasing from 7,000 crores to probably 10, 12, 14, 16, whatever, depending on the order book. So it probably won't, at least for the next 5 years, won't go down from the 7,000 crore base, but it will only keep going upwards.
Absolutely.
Wow. No wonder the stock has gone like ballistic.
400%.
400% in 3 years, no? But
in 1 year.
oh, sorry, 1 year.
Yeah. And just 60% in this month. So when we were talking about the stock a month ago, we should have covered it then
No, but it's okay. We've got it
in our portfolios.
yeah.
Okay, so now what is the revenue breakup like? If you consider revenue from the servicing and maintenance,
Right.
the revenue from building the new ships.
Servicing and maintenance is probably 5% or lesser. And it's hovered around that range for a bit now. And the rest of it is just manufacturing. Yeah.
Which is quite different compared to HAL, right? Because HAL is 25%, 75% of service revenue. And only 25% for them comes from manufacturing. But that, I don't know, that to me seems like a function of one, it having fulfilled many more orders or whatever over the last many years. So the fleet must be larger and the fleet is older and that requires a lot of servicing.
Exactly.
Plus, I think the service cycle for aircrafts would be higher compared to the service cycle for ships. So that would be resulting in that kind of stability. But probably what will also happen in the case of Mazagon is that now that revenue is accelerating so much, over a period of time, the service revenue will also keep increasing higher.
Yeah.
So probably you'll come to a point, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, where the service revenue is a major portion. Not as much as 75, but it will be a good chunk, obviously higher than 5%, and that will give stability to the entire revenue stream.
In fact, on that note, there's already talks of that bit of the segment working out in the future because the US Navy wants to give off the fleet to Mazagon Docks as a repair or maintenance deal. So the entire East Pacific fleet of ships that they have, they're trying to strike a deal wherein Mazagon. Somebody just another podcast. Yeah.
So if you now look at the margins, what are the margins like in the repair and maintenance and the margins in building a new ship?
So I think that information wasn't really provided because we don't have the split in terms of how much profit they make from repairs or this thing. But overall, I think their operating margins are in and around the 15 to 17% range,
Okay.
which is quite low compared to, let's say, an HAL, which has it in the 30% range. So I think that's where the difference comes, where most of their revenue is coming in from the repairs, which is probably a higher margin now.
But it also depends on like efficiency and stuff, right? And it's steady revenue, so you can it's not lumpy in nature, because manufacturing can result in, when there's a order book gap, or when there's a production gap, it can result in like costs overshooting your revenue. But
Yeah.
this bit is so constant and steady that it just keeps the margins higher.
Right.
But have the revenue been increasing or has it been stable at 16%,
It's
17%?
been increasing. I think if you have to give it like a CAGR, they've grown the fastest among, like, let's say an HAL or a BDL at about 12% CAGR in the past 5 years. So that is
Okay.
higher than, let's say, HAL, which grew at 8%, and BDL, which saw degrowth from FY18.
Not the revenue, I'm asking about the profit pat.
Yeah, even profit, yeah. So even on that front, I think operating profit wise, they've grown the fastest at a 16% CAGR.
Okay. What else?
What else?
So the thing is, like, all these revenues obviously depend on how many orders they're getting from the government.
Yeah,
Um, so the fact that this one is growing faster,
yeah.
is it correlated to, and it would be, the fact that Indian Navy's budget would be higher compared to what is spent on Air Force as well as the Army?
So it's not more in the sense that they're getting a bigger chunk of anything. In fact, even if you take the total, let's say this year, there's about 5.9 lakh crore going into the defense allocation entirely. This is inclusive of
No,
their
but
cap.
capex, only capex is the number you'll take, right? Because
So
the rest of
even
it is salaries and all
capex,
that, which can
so
be
it's
ignored.
quite close to the Air Force, which has the highest capex. So that if the Air Force has about 38% of the entire capex outlay, the Navy will have 35 or 32. So the difference is that much, and the difference hasn't really shifted much in the past few years. But if you take the overall budget, then you can see a trend in which, like, maybe the Navy is getting more of an importance.
No, so the budget allocation or the capital outlay allocated to Navy, say for the last 5 years, wouldn't the growth
Yeah.
rate be higher compared to that towards the Army or the Air Force?
Maybe the Army will see lesser of a growth, but the Air Force has been growing at a fairly extensive rate in terms of capex. Not as fast as they're faster than the Navy.
Got it.
Just the capex component. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you
Now,
had to point out three things which drive the order book or the revenue growth for these guys,
Yeah.
either over the last 5 years, which have caused the outperformance compared to HAL or BDL,
Yeah.
or over the next 3 years, where they'll probably grow faster compared to HAL and BDL, what would those factors be? Like,
So
because the order book is high, so what is resulting in that book being so high? One is the Navy
yeah.
budget. What else could be factors that are
Yeah,
resulting?
so maybe it's definitely one that's seen like a growth in the past 5 years. But other than that, so I think everyone's aware of Make in India. So that same applies to the defense also. And that has seen like a significant tilt towards the Navy. So how it works is there's four different lists that have come out as of now, with about 400, 300-ish items that have been listed in each list. And they come out once every year, and it lists what items that the Indian defense will stop importing from other countries. So now we've
okay,
hit the tally of about 2,500 items ish that have been
that
completely banned. Sorry?
that is out of how many items in total?
I mean, I think it just comes incrementally because these 2,000 items include even like nitty gritties like wires and nuts and bolts. So I think
Okay,
as and when they look at things that are significant or rather insignificant to be imported and spend at higher cost, they're willing to just make it in
okay,
house. So that number is at about 2,000, 2,500. And currently, as I think the last list came out in March this year, Mazagon Docks has the highest uh, like stake in the number of items that are to be indigenized. So if there are
But that
2,000,
will be a little deceptive, right? Because if Mazda Dock is doing a majority of small ticket items
yeah,
versus you've got like a full jet engine uh, in
yeah,
HAL,
yeah.
versus this guy is just replacing, हाँ मैं locally source करेगा screw और डालेगा.
So I think that's not the case for Mazagon. There's other few companies that are doing just these cable spring screws. Some of them are, I think, India Optel Limited, Bharat Earth Movers, Bharat Electronics, and even BDL to an extent are doing smaller parts than anything. But Mazagon specifically are doing submarine focused and ship focused stuff. So not just entire ships, but very key components that are highly tech driven in sonar technology or things that India wasn't really equipped with earlier and they had to import. That is what Mazagon's focusing on now. And there's the benefit over Cochin Shipyard where they're not even in the running.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's
But
one. Yeah.
then, like HL had exports, right? Like Tejas was a big hit,
Yeah.
not you.
Yeah, not
So there were so many like so many countries that wanted Tejas, and so many like orders which are still in the pipeline, right? Discussions going on, some materializing, some taking time, whatever. People coming to India and flying the plane and seeing. Is there anything, any such platform or product in the case of Mazagon Dock, which has export potential? Um, Other than
Mm.
the MRO contract. Now, service contract, okay, I understand. But
Right.
in terms of fully manufacturing and shipping out.
Yeah. Shipping out. So I think there is one deal that's still materializing. So it's not confirmed how many Indian players are going to get into this. But I think there's this German firm called ThyssenKrupp AG, and they are planning on doing like a collaborative deal, much like how GE and HAL are doing it for jet engines. ThyssenKrupp's doing it with Indian shipbuilders to manufacture ships and submarines. So as of now, currently there's a few players that are in the mix. There's L&T Shipping, there's Cochin, there's MDL, but the order value that could be attributed to this is well above 50,000 crore mark. So if MDL gets,
50,000 crore in addition to the 38,000 crore
yeah,
already.
this is completely separate 50,000 crore.
It looks like one of those stocks where you don't even need to bother about like projecting numbers or like
Because
doing
it's given to you.
valuations.
Yeah,
Because it's like on the, like it's just the visibility is so high.
exactly. Yeah,
If the visibility is not high, if whatever that 50,000 doesn't materialize, the existing order book is enough to take care of like still
absolutely.
whatever, at least justify the price movement in the stock and even more.
In fact, if we had to just make like a bold statement, we could see the order book if no execution is done as of now, and it's standard 38,000 crores right now, it will reach 50,000 crores easy by FY25 with no effort in terms of actually trying to get business because there's already two more orders coming in for the submarines. So that's about 8 to 10,000 crore there itself. Then the destroyers ka 1 or 2, which will give you another 14, 15,000 crore. Because of the average order value, each of these being so high, even one adds such a material difference that it can make up almost an entire quarter or two's worth of revenue.
They
Yeah,
just it's
the
your turn.
order book for coaching shipyard is only 21,000 crores as of now.
yeah. But how much is the revenue
The revenue is, I guess, 2,800, 2,900 crores.
for that? It's almost 9 times the revenue, which is good.
But major of the revenue comes, like 59% of the revenue comes from shipbuilding, and
Right.
remaining comes from repair and maintenance.
Again, so as Sagar had already mentioned, some of their orders, since it takes so long to make, they've already done with that, and now it comes the time to repair.
The building already, so that is why the
Sorry.
repair. The shipbuilding process for coaching shipyard must have been done before, so the orders
Yeah.
are majority part of the revenue is like from the repair.
Right. So that's one of them. So indigenization and just overall budgetary support is really fueling Mazagon talks per se. And then, as we mentioned, the export deals that are coming in, which will materialize sooner than we think because it's been in the talks for a few months now.
Other than the
Now,
US Navy fleet, are they making any ships for any other country or exporting anything?
No, not at least nothing that's public information as of now. But it's mainly just the US Navy as of
Okay.
in terms of like a government to government interaction.
Okay.
now I have a quiz. Quizzes are bad. Tejas,
With the
this is for
quiz
you also.
again.
Yeah, there's a winner in this, so Tejas, you have to be competitive.
Okay.
This is your first quiz, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, which country has the world's largest shipbuilding yard?
Eh,
Each of you only get one answer, huh? Chance. No googling.
No, no, of course not.
Tejas. I-
I'm
I'm
guessing
still
America. No, Russia. Russia.
Wrong answer.
Mm. He said India only.
Wrong answer.
So
South Korea.
South Korea.
Okay.
Acha, now I'll ask an easy one. Okay, now this one you have to know.
Okay.
Which is the largest ship breaking yard in the world?
Ship
Ship.
breaking yard.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah, I'm
Like they're
zero.
complicated to build, they're complicated to break down as well, right? You can't just
Right, right.
like those highway के नीचे गाड़ियाँ होती वैसे you can't just leave it.
Um, no idea.
India,
Oh, really? Where?
Gujarat. There's this place called Alang.
They break down ships there, and it's the largest in the world. Oh, that's interesting. Hmm.
Okay.
Pretty cool. Okay.
So
This
nobody's
is
won this time's quiz.
Yeah.
We can do like an audience quiz as well.
Like put it in the comment section, sort of thing.
Yeah. So the first person to subscribe to the Monopoly's portfolio and tell me which has the highest highest allocation in terms of stock uh, wins something.
wins what?
They get returns.
Oh yeah. How cheap. At least we could say like merchandise, like repeating merchandise or something.
T-shirt.
We can do that. We can do that. For every subscriber that actually subscribes to the portfolio, also T-shirt.
Please first you go take approval from SEBI for saying all this. So
Yeah.
okay, so again back to this. So
Yeah.
basically, then if all of this materializes, right, 38,000 crore order book, they start executing on it. What is the kind of revenue growth that they'll see? Revenue and PAT growth potentially, and obviously that has an upside. I understand because that 38,000 can go to 50,000, and if that
Yeah.
begins because they already have capacity, then obviously revenue and PAT will go on top of that. But
Correct.
only if you assume that 38,000 crores hai, yahi execute karna. So what is the kind of growth they'll see?
So if they've done a 12% 5-year CAGR right now, they can accelerate to a 15 or 16%, taking this 38,000 crore into consideration. And this is not a projection. This is what the management has very blatantly said that ye is saal mein ye hoga pakka. So taking that, the revenue
They talk in
is
Hindi or what on the call?
yeah.
Cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the kind of revenue growth they're looking at. In terms of, let's say, a PAT growth, we can expect. So I think they recorded about a 21% growth 5-year PAT in the past 5 years. So that can go up to 25, 27%. This is taking
Because they're
into
still,
consideration.
margin-wise, they're still lower, right?
Yeah.
Compared to both HAL and BDL, or only compared to HAL?
I think BDL is just a tad bit more, maybe 100 to 100 basis points ahead, but HAL is almost double.
Yeah, yeah. But surprisingly, the return ratios for MDL are the highest.
Yeah, whether it's ROC or ROE, both they're quite apart from
Yeah.
the HL and BDL. Yeah.
So, like now coming to valuations, right? Because like return ratios are the highest, growth will be the highest,
Right.
but valuations are the lowest. How do
Yeah.
you make sense of that?
Like, why is it that low?
No, like sure, or shouldn't it be higher?
Wait, wait, I think you lagged for me. Shit.
Sagar froze.
Okay, you're back. You're back.
Yeah,
I
no,
can
so
hear.
not why they're so low. Probably they're low because that kind of visibility wasn't there so far.
Yeah.
But now that the visibility is there, and you've seen the stock go up as and when the orders have come,
Yeah.
or as and when the execution has started. So whenever the market gets confidence that hey, the order book is large and that order book is materializing in terms of financial performance,
Right.
the stock is re-rating like massively. But
Correct.
despite it being like 5x over the last year,
Yeah.
not 5x, sorry,
4x.
3x,
Hmm.
400%, na?
Yeah. Correct. 400%.
So 5x one, na?
Correct.
So despite it growing that much, the valuations are still at a discount compared to HL and B.
Yeah. So I think if we take it like multiple wise, forward multiple wise, I think MDL is trading at about a 14 times P, wherein HAL and BDL are much higher than that. Let's just put it that way. They're much higher.
Much higher meaning how much?
Wait, let me check.
HL, I think, is some 25, 30 times.
and BDL will be more at about 32, 32.
Oh, that's higher valuation. BDL.
It's quite high. Yeah, so if you look at just 1 year forward, MDL is at 10 times, HAL is at 16, and BDL is 35.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if they have highest growth,
Yeah.
order book is similar to others, 5.5, 6 times
Mm.
revenue.
Yeah, maybe BDL has a higher order book in terms of quantum, where their order book is about 8 times their revenue. But HAL and BDL is fairly similar.
All are debt free.
All are debt.
All of them have MDL has the highest return ratios.
Yeah.
Um, so obviously it can at least go to par with what the competitors, not competitors,
Yeah.
but peer group is at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from how much is it? 14 times.
Yeah. 14 times if you take 2 year forward, 1 year forward will be 10 times.
2 year multiple will be lower, na? How will it be higher?
Or is this, have I written it incorrectly?
Or the revenue is declining in FY25. One of
It is.
these two happen.
It is. FY24 is peaking and FY25 is slightly lower.
Then it's okay for FY25 multiples to be higher.
Yeah.
So it can at least like go to 25 times to jais. Right?
Yeah, it's a possible. I mean, if it's already rallied 400%,
Yeah,
then
like theoretically it can go to 30 times also because that's what peers are trading at. And given that it's superior, probably it can go even beyond 30 times.
Yeah.
So if the valuations have to double from here,
yeah,
theoretically, basis only
Yeah.
that much, the stock can double from here.
yeah. So what, like 3,300, 3,200 in terms of
It is
price?
trading at what price right now?
1,200, 12, 1,300?
So 3,000, 3,000 ish.
Yeah. Quite. I mean, we should have covered this a
Spoken
month
about
ago.
it.
Just
But take care.
yeah.
I think our job is to make money and not to cover
Then we could
that we're doing.
we could have taken credit for the 60% upside it's got this month.
मतलब मैनेजमेंट और वो वर्कर जो शिप बना रहा है उसका तो कुछ कंट्रीब्यूशन ही नहीं है तुम्हारे यहाँ पे आके
Yes.
बोलने का
60% देगा.
Interesting. Cool. Ayush, do you have any questions for us now? Let's turn the table.
We have
Stages.
nothing.
You know everything.
No, nothing in terms of like a question, but
It doesn't have to be a MDL question. It can be anything. Chal. We'll give you a wild card. You can ask anything, and we'll
Tejas,
say
what is your last name?
what.
What kind of question is that?
Okay, so hypothetically, now I think you went through Cochin shipyards briefly. If you had to pick just from the sense of looking at how Cochin manage, I mean, like what kind of orders they do, what kind of orders MDL do, and just positioning, who do you think are they even in contention with each other?
I guess they are in, but I'll choose Mazagon because revenue is higher and the order book is greater for Mazagon. So yeah, maybe for that reason, yeah. Because valuations I have not seen for Cochin.
Yeah. We should have done a comparison with Cochin also, just to see, like, from shipbuilder to shipbuilder, how do they stack up?
You're just 1 week late in that.
Yeah. 1 week late. Yeah.
So for peer comparison, you did only HL and BDL for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think more than a peer comparison, it's one of those cases where they're not competitors, right? They're not fighting for the same order book. They have a distinct role to play in whatever they do.
Right.
So it's, I think, more to get a sense of if the same underlying factors exist for all three companies and a similar financial performance exists and similar visibility exists, then how do you value each of these stocks? So it's not more like, oh, this one's better than that one in terms of growth, so that should get a premium or a discount or whatever. I mean, you can do that, but I think at least baseline is to just touch upon the fact that there's such a valuation disparity despite them being driven by the same factors and the performance also being similar. So
Exactly.
from that aspect, it makes sense to look at three different companies in the same space.
But if you look at the revenue split that they get from the budget, what is that like?
We won't know the direct uh, implication of what the budget entails and what they get, but the order book is the only way to know that.
No, so if we take the India's budget and defense budget,
Yeah.
what is the split like for Army, Navy, and Air
Oh,
Force?
I'll tell you that. So if there's
And
about
has it been like in the past?
yeah, so let's say this year was 5.9 lakhs, which is, I think, the highest in recent history at least.
Okay.
But let's say in 2021 or 2020, if the army was getting majority, which is at about 63-65%, navy getting 13% and air force getting 18, that has significantly, you can say it's significant of a change, because the army as a percentage of the defense budget has declined to about
Okay.
57% from 63.
Okay.
Navy has risen from 13 to 17%, and Air
Okay.
Force has stayed right about the same. So, which is what we were speaking about earlier, that Air Force has been quite the, like, which is why I think we picked HAL to speak about before MDL, because that's quite the high growth sector just among defense forces. But next best would be the Navy, because they're seeing
No, but
growth.
also what happens with HAL is that Air Force, the Navy also has jets.
Exactly.
So those orders also go to HAL. So it's not strictly Air Force, Air Force. It's the whole of the defense services.
Yeah. That's one, I think, con which MDL has, because you can't fly ships, unfortunately.
Himalaya में जाएगा submarine.
No, I think
Confused,
we've got a lot of
make them so
submarines
confused, no? Like,
for a few
imagine like
weeks.
a guy from like a soldier and like a whole troop from China or Pakistan. They're like, what the fuck is a submarine doing here? They'll be so confused.
Then we win the war.
Just for the kicks, we'll be like wondering and discussing strategy. We'll be like,
But I think there's been a lot of submarine talk in the past few weeks to keep everyone on high alert.
The Titanic.
When we were discussing this blog, the other guy who was helping us write it specifically asked me not to make a single joke about Ocean Gate in the blog,
What?
because it's still
why?
too sensitive of a topic for people to read about.
Utsav?
Yeah.
Why is he being so sensitive?
He's like, shouldn't joke about that right now, it's too soon.
Did you read that there was one dude who went just because he wanted to do a world record of doing the fastest Rubik cube solving under the sea at 3.7 kilometer?
So he paid $250,000 for that.
Yeah, and he
That's
did that because he wanted to impress his father
oh,
on
they
fast.
yeah. Oh, so they paid 500,000 $500,000
I don't know
as a
how much,
fee.
but
No,
But
each
see,
ticket was for 250,000.
no, but
okay.
at least the father saw it and got impressed. Now it's not like he did it, then he couldn't communicate it to the
But then
father.
the
That
Rubik's
would have
Cube
been
was
the choice.
crushed, no? And their brains and all were on it. So,
No, no, but this is good. Like his wish got fulfilled. What died, but at least it got fulfilled.
that's true.
We don't know that he solved that under that pressure.
This is
I'm
like a
happy.
full that scene. Yeah, this is like a
Solve that.
Schrodinger's cat scene.
Yeah, but it
He
doesn't imply that Schrodinger's cat here because we don't know if it happened or not.
So Schrodinger's cat also very own.
That is
Whether it
only what it
happened.
is. No, we don't know whether the cat was dead or not.
Happen or it can't. But वहाँ पे इतना pressure है, यहाँ पे oxygen खत्म हो रहा है, and he'll be
No,
like,
but he
I
could have solved it. Like, he didn't have to solve it at that depth,
no,
no?
he wanted to solve at 3,700 meters.
Oh. Why would
No,
he
but
think that's a good idea?
the ship crashed at it imploded at what level?
Before that only, I guess.
तो then Schrodinger नहीं है तो वही मेरे को ऐश उसका पूरा.
And even consider अगर ऑक्सीजन खत्म हो रहा है और भाई इधर बोलेगा मेरे को रूबिक्स क्यूब सॉल्व करना है,
His father slapped him, bro.
instead of being proud he'll be like kid. Let's not joke about it.
सब होने के बाद now you're saying let's not joke about
Let's not joke about it.
it. But Ayush, what would you choose, Chal, if you had like, Chal, you have $1 million.
Yeah.
Now you
Wow.
have to choose between going to space and going down in the sea. What would you choose?
I think I'd go to space. Because both ways I'm going to die. So might as well look at something new for a change. Like I haven't seen like
New matlab kya? You've not seen niche also, ocean में depth.
yeah, but there's such dearth of light there anyway that even if you have the brightest flashlight, you won't be able to see more than a few meters away. But like up, you can see sky and all. Yeah, like you can see the globe for real. Then I'll die. Then it's okay.
I like
Both
answer.
ways, it'll be instant death.
No, but not from a death perspective. I never introduced death. I introduced an experience.
No, even experience-wise, I think it'll be more interesting to see what's up there than what's down there. That's what she said.
Tejas, would you want to go down or up?
If you introduce the death perspective, then maybe the sky.
No, there's no death. There's no death. There is, you'll come back.
And then I'll go to the sea.
But there's so much more possibility of you seeing more freaky shit in the sea. Like there's so many animals and species that we haven't discovered that's at that depth.
Yeah, that is.
Dude, it's not like you'll go नीचे and you'll see. ऐसे तो मतलब कॉर्बेट पार्क जाके भी टाइगर दिखता नहीं है. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि तुम नीचे
That's
जाओगे तो
different.
दिखेगा.
But that's very different. Corbett Park, may the tiger is being relocated to the park. Here, you are entering their wild habitat.
हाँ, so it's even more rare to see it ना.
But space में there's no chance of you know.
आजा अगर आ गया तो ठीक है,
There's
but
more in the sea, huh?
एलियन वगैरह कोई मिल गया तो ठीक है, but other than that there's no possibility ना.
I not really want to go up there. Only.
Fair.
I think recently a bunch of people were locked in a Mars simulation also, like a day or two ago.
I've been locked up for 1 year and 8 days.
It's going to be
No,
very
but that is necessary, right? Because the thing with Mars is that once you land on Mars, right,
Hmm.
you can't come back for a period for I think 4 years. I think at least 4 or 8 years. I'm not too sure. Because the fastest way to get to Mars is going to be when Earth and Mars are aligned, right? When
Right.
they are aligning, so you'll take off, and Mars is coming, and you'll land on Mars. But then if Mars is on the opposite side,
Oh,
there's no
shit.
way of like coming back from Mars back to
So you'll
Earth.
have to wait for
Till
that
the
align.
time the planets align again, and that happens every I think 4 years. I'm not too sure. Google करना पड़ेगा, but I think 4 years or 7 years or 8 years. So once you
That's
go back, you
interesting.
have to stay for that long.
But this simulation that is for 1 year and 8 days, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, but that'll also be very interesting. I mean, I'm not sure how long someone can survive in a closed space like that.
Big boss. Big.
Big Boss.
Do you
Big
guys
Boss. Thanks. This is.
do you guys watch Big Boss?
I used to be a fan. Like some seasons I've watched.
Amitabh
Like,
Bachchan seasons were nice.
Amitabh
Then
Bachchan?
he was the older host, no? Who was before Salman Khan? Salman Khan was the
I
newer
don't know
one.
which generation you're born in.
Wait, who was before Salman Khan? Or I think
Salman
Beach Mein
Khan.
Salman Khan took a break and
You're talking about.
no, that I know. That's it. But didn't someone else host Big Boss for a bit?
1 year, I guess, someone else.
Hmm.
But other than that, it was Salman Khan all the time.
I really like Rakhi Sawant, so I think for that season I really watched because
Judging you, bro.
she's amazing, yeah.
Don't tell me you like Urfi Javed also.
No comment on that on a public podcast.
Why?
Why? Her
We'll
We'll
outfits.
get an additional hashtag also. My favorite was Pooja Mishra.
Oh yeah. What
She's
is this
from Pune
behavior?
only. These psychos.
Oh really? All these psychos.
offended. I don't like
You
Big
think-
Boss. I'm offended.
You think you'll make a Bombay comment and get away with it or what?
Do you like Bombay or Gujarat?
Bombay, dude. Bombay anytime.
That's
You
because
stay-
Mazagon is here. And on that note, let's
On that note, what are we doing next week?
I think something about pipes. Let's just leave it there. It's a sneak peek. Something about
Hard
pipes.
pipes. Breakable
Yeah.
and non-breakable, but hard pipes.
That's what she said.
You're a big time Office fan.
Me? Yeah. Very much so. And more a fan of innuendo than anything else. And on that note, that is a wrap for this week. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for the next episode. And that's a wrap.